A former Epic Games executive has suggested that Amazon continue to inject wokeness, or at least pressure Games Workshop to inject wokeness into their Warhammer and Warhammer 40k franchises so that it will irreparably damage the IP so that they can then gobble up Games Workshop and Warhammer and buy it up on the cheap as the stock price and relationship deteriorates between customer and company. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Wrote this up over at thatparkplace.com yesterday, and we have former Epic Games business development manager Alexei Savchenko posted this on X. Warhammer, hashtag Warhammer, if I was Amazon, I would continue applying pressure with TV series for lore changes, dismantle Games Workshop relationships with the fan base, drop their price, and just buy them for pennies on the dollar, or buy them penny on a dollars. And then launch TV faithful to lore, just saying. So I don't know if he's being cheeky, being sarcastic, or if this is an actual business strategy that he is suggesting. I would not be surprised if this is something that we have seen done. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but I did find it an interesting post here that he is suggesting that if you inject wokeness, it indeed does basically bankrupt your company and allows it to either be shut down, as we've seen in the case with numerous video game companies, Volition being probably the biggest example after their Saints Row debacle, as well as Luminous after the Forspoken debacle shutdown, absorbed into Square Enix. No longer exists, though. So we have those big examples right there. But as far as a licensing partner or someone like that trying to suggest that their partner injects wokeness into their main property in order to drive the price down so that they can then purchase it themselves, I don't know if we've seen anything like that before, but I wouldn't say it's out of the realm of possibility. There's so much underhanded stuff happening in the world of finance and entertainment. But Games Workshop is indeed injecting wokeness, so this isn't like out of the ordinary. So his post comes in the wake of Games Workshop injecting wokeness into Warhammer 40k. Specifically, they retconned their Adeptus Custodes faction. They added in a new female custodian, and then they proceeded to gaslight their own customers, hobbyists, and enthusiasts by claiming it was not a retcon and that there had always been female custodians, despite the lore showing that that just is not the case. And I don't even think they have any female custodians. Like, you can't even point to any of them at all whatsoever because they just simply didn't exist. I'm not going to go over all this stuff here. It is in the article. I'll have it in the description below, but you can see here the excerpts from the I guess it's out now. Oh, I guess it comes out tomorrow. The Codex Adeptus Custodes that shows the introduction of this female Custodes. Here is obviously Warhammer's post gaslighting their hobbyists. Since the first of the 10,000 were created, there have always been female custodians. Like I said, that's an absolute lie. That's just not true. And we have previous lore from former World of Warcraft team lead Mark Kern showing that they have always been men. These men never leave Earth. That's from Rogue Trader 1987. You've got the 7th and 8th edition of the official Custodes codexes describing them as the Brotherhood of Demigods and making it clear that they are the sons of nobles. So clearly this is a retcon, and then they were lying and gaslighting people about it. Then after all of this, we had a boycott happening. So people were literally canceling their Warhammer Plus subscriptions, canceling their subscriptions to the various Games Workshop magazines, etc., that they might have been subscribed to, and then announcing that they would no longer be purchasing anything having to do with Warhammer, Warhammer 40k, or at least Games Workshop. Yeah, you have an example right here. Brother Bulwark Grimm says, kiss my butt, Games Workshop, not another penny. And they shared a screenshot of him canceling his subscription. We also had this big rumor. I think this is really where Savchenko's comment comes from, is this rumor here from 4chan that says that the female custodians were created because of pressure from Amazon MGM Studios, from Amazon. It's hard to read the rumor in the screenshot, so I'll just read the transcription here. The rumor comes from 4chan. It says female custodians are only going to be mentioned in the codex. No new sculpts or characters after the fact. Social media department jumped the gun and tried to put out fires with the wrong hose. Intent is to push female custodians character in Amazon show without it breaking lore, because Amazon executives wanted a woman in power armor and wouldn't settle for Sisters of Battle. People involved in the show are pissed because they've been moving ahead on Eisenhorn. Talks of inserting said female custodians into Eisenhorn's story, with Cavill threatening to walk away from the project. Small stock drop today, but Games Workshop figures it can ride it out if it stays mum on the subject. They really need better social media employees. It says Cavill will be in an article due to, quote, heading to Games Workshop to work on the new series this week or next. We haven't seen anything like that so far. The leaker said, if he leaves, it'll be a noticeable hit to the share price, meaning the show is dead, a good ending, or Amazon is calling the shots, bad ending. Not Black Chagorians, but similar scenario. You can trust me. My dad works at Nintendo. I don't know if that's some kind of meme phrase or whatever, but it does, in my opinion, kind of throw the whole rumor legitimacy. I'm very skeptical of it, because it says you can trust me. My dad works at Nintendo. I'm just like, what does that have to do with anything? It just seems a little bit ridiculous. Just maybe just a tell that this is kind of completely fake and just not true. But that is the rumor, that Amazon is trying to pressure them. I don't think that piece is out of the ordinary. I think there is a huge, even if this rumor is completely made up, I do think there is a possibility that Amazon is indeed pressuring Games Workshop and to add this female custodies for their upcoming show. We know that Amazon has lots of quotas for their television shows. They say that they want to stay true to the narratives, but we know that's simply not true. We see the evidence of that. You can just look at Wheel of Time. Completely did all of the race changes. They've done all these sexual orientation stuff too, sexual preferences and all that stuff. Lots of changes in the Wheel of Time. They did the same thing with Rings of Power. We didn't really see any kind of sexuality stuff, but we did see lots of race swapping. They've completely changed significant portions of the story. They added in hobbits where hobbits don't exist, and they tried to explain it away as like, oh, they're just Harfoots, when Harfoots are hobbits. Like, that's what they are. And clearly showing that they didn't actually read anything about the Lord of the Rings or anything from Tolkien's Legendarium, despite claiming that they're big super fans. So we've seen this, right? We've seen them enact these quotas to inject them into these franchises that they have licensed, such as Wheel of Time, such as the Rings of Power. So it's not unheard of that they would be doing something like this with Games Workshop and Warhammer as well. But it is, again, going back to Savchenko's comments here, it is interesting that he's positing that what is it? Let's go back here. That Games Workshop should, Amazon should continue to pressure Games Workshop to inject more wokeness, so it completely fractures the company's relationships with its fan base. So it drives the stock price lower and allows Bezos or whoever is kind of in control of Amazon to maybe gobble it all up and take control of the company, or just do an outright purchase of Games Workshop, so then they actually own that IP. Obviously, we've seen Amazon kind of do this recently, not to the fact that they were injecting wokeness, but they did indeed gobble up MGM. Now it's Amazon MGM Studios. They have merged their Amazon Studios with Amazon MGM after they purchased MGM. So they own a bunch of original IP now. And as I don't know, and the distribution rights, I think they specifically own distribution rights to James Bond. They own Stargate, etc. So they have a bunch of original IP that they have purchased via their acquisition of MGM. On top of all of this, we do have the company's chief financial officer, Rachel Tung. This just happened this week, or was reported this week, has sold 2/3 of her stake in the company, worth approximately $865,000, just as the boycott began. Now, usually this stuff probably takes place, or is scheduled to happen over the course of time. It is interesting that this news breaks in the middle of the boycott. We had the business desk reporting that she reduced her stake in the Nottingham-based company by 2/3 after the share sale at an average price of 94 pounds and I don't know, what do they call pence, 89 pence per share. And that sale came after the fact that she announced her resignation. Her resignation was announced in January by the company's CEO, Kevin Roundtree. He said that she would be stepping down from her role as CFO and would exit the company in 2025. So that's interesting too. So I think that it's possible that she sees some troubles ahead. It's possible she could also be heading for retirement and just wants to get out. The stock is at a really high price comparative to the how long it's been on the stock market. I think it's around like 120. I think it might have dipped a little bit below that. I think its high was like 170 in like 2021, but it's still relatively high compared to where it had been over the past like decade. If you go back a decade, I think it's much higher than what it was. So she could just be trying to get out while the getting's good, and that means that she doesn't see it going up any further, despite having the television show coming forth. Maybe there's going to be more changes like this to the franchise, like we're seeing with these female adeptus, and that could significantly harm the company based on their relationship with Amazon. But let me know what you guys make of what Savchenko has to say here. Do you think that this is a business strategy that wealthy individuals have been doing to try and acquire companies on the cheap? I don't know if we've seen anyone kind of go back to being faithful to the lore. They've kind of just continued to inject the wokeness, though. I don't think we've really seen anyone do that. So I haven't seen anything like this. Do you think this is something that someone would do? I don't know. It's an interesting premise here. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, but to always speak the truth.